Hello, people of the internet. The Evil Slayers here for another video. Hooray! Right. Doom Eternal. What else is there for me to say that's not been said? It is the best shooter to come out in recent years. And of course, since it is the best shooter, there will be a rare case that someone out there would make a bad take, like Connor Shaw, 21 Kiloton, DW Terminator, Upper Echelon Gamers, and the person for this video, Contrawolf. Because for today's video, we'll be talking about his review of Doom Eternal, which is called Doom 5 Review. I guess he thinks Eternal is not a good enough subtitle for the game. But, with all that said, let's get into the video, shall we?
Doom 5. Oh boy, what a tangled web we weave. And by the way, this is going to be a review for the base game only, no DLC, and no multiplayer. I didn't play the multiplayer, I don't have any of the DLC, I have no plans to get it, and I'm pretty sure the guy who gifted this game to me has no plans to get it for me either, and I'm just fine with that.
Okay, I get multiplayer because nobody plays that shit, and it's kind of a shame you're not going to talk about the ancient gods, which I will be bringing up in this video for reasons. And are you forgetting something, a little something called Horde mode? Because I'm pretty sure that's a feature as well.
So first up is the story. Right from the start, it's been some time since Doom 4's ending. Hell's invasion of Earth is underway, the Doom Slayer has this castle floating in space and this new suit of armor, and I'm sitting here thinking, okay, what the hell's going on? Because when we last saw him, he was in some random room. Dr. Hayden was like, yeah, I got this sword and I can control Argent energy. Maybe, so see you later, dipshit. And he teleported you off to somewhere. So what the hell happened between now and then, huh? Come on guys, how much time has passed? Where did he get the floating castle? How about the new armor? The game doesn't explain anything. Within seconds you're off to kill a priest of some kind.
Would we rather have a 5-minute cutscene giving us an exposition dump on what happened between Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal? Or would we rather have the game be like, here's a shotgun, kill some demons, go after some priests, and have fun? Because I'd rather have option B than option A, thank you very much.
Now, from there on, I like some parts of the story. There's a lot more of it here, more cutscenes, more talking, but then we get to the second major problem. The game introduces all of these new characters that you don't have any effing clue as to who they are, but the game treats you like you know who these people are. The only major characters in Doom 4 were Dr. Hayden and Olivia Pierce, and it was pretty obvious to tell who they were from the first couple of talks they had, more or less. With Doom 5, you got these angels, you got demons, this flashback here with more people, this guy who talks about a lantern or something, and I'm like, who are all these fucking people?
Were you actually paying close attention on the cutscenes when the new characters show up? Because I'm getting the feeling like you didn't pay attention to the cutscenes at all.
And if you want any kind of idea as to what's going on, you have to read the notepads that are scattered throughout the game. There's a lot of them, and they're all like 5 paragraphs long. I was like, really? This destroys the pacing of the game and clearly shows that whoever wrote the story was either somebody different, or if it was the original writer, he completely forgot what made the story in Doom 4 so great. Which was the fact that you didn't have to read all the notes, because the game did a perfectly good job at telling you what happened and what was going on as you played. The big story was there for people who wanted it, and that's what made Doom 4 so good. It didn't force you to read all this crap.
And Doom Eternal is not forcing you to do the same thing either. You can read them in your spare time. It's just there for those lore enthusiasts. So you don't have to read them during game. You can still play it without having to read them.
If you just wanted to shoot bad guys with a basic story, there you go. And for those of you that want to compare the start of Doom 5 to Doom 4 and draw parallels between them, well, I got this for you. Doom 4 didn't take place after a previous game that ended on a cliffhanger like Doom 5 does. It didn't need to do anything besides make it obvious that something went wrong. That's how it pulled the player in, but the ending left so many questions that needed to be answered, and Doom 5 doesn't answer them.
But Doom Eternal did one thing that Doom 2016 didn't. It got to the fucking point. Earth's being invaded, you have to kill some priests, so you get your shotgun and you get out there.
It's so jarring because you have all of these cutscenes here that are trying to establish this big story, and yet in order to get the full story, you have to read all this boring text, and even once you read them, it still feels like there's a good 1/3 of the story missing. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, the notes don't answer any of the questions that Doom 4 left. Which leads me to think that the story was going to be much bigger than what we got, and then for whatever reason a third of it got relegated to the notepads, and the last third of it got canned. Such a waste of effort.
Or maybe the last third and some answers to some questions are in the Ancient Gods. Have you ever thought of that?
As far as the presentation is concerned, the graphics, the sound, it's pretty damn good. The game looks great from top to bottom, there's no question about that, and what I really love is how you can blast pieces off the demons. It reminded me a lot of Project Brutality, and the music especially has been given a huge improvement over Doom 4, because Doom 4's music was good for background noise when playing the game, but not for listening to it on its own. But Doom 5, just go listen to it, especially the ambience, it's fucking great.
I mean, he's not wrong there. The soundtrack is good. I'm even using one of the ambient tracks for this video.
But there's a few things I also don't like. I don't know if it's the lighting or the texture setup, but there are times where Doom 5 takes on an almost comic book-like appearance with its over-the-top color palettes and very bright lighting, and I don't like it. Doom 4 had this muted, very grounded in reality look to it, even when you were in the depths of hell, and I preferred that a lot more than this. It's like the art style made the transition from science fiction to science fantasy. I'm not saying it looks objectively bad, I just don't like it.
Excuse me, what?
Just letting you know, there is a thing called render mode, and you can change it to a gritty render. Just saying.
Now, as for the sound, while the music got a much-needed overhaul and the voice acting gets the job done, the sound effects still need a lot of work. That's one thing I didn't like about Doom 4 was the sound effects, especially for the guns. They were very weak, and not much was done about that here. In fact, in some cases, especially with the machine gun, they sound even worse than Doom 4.
While not all weapons sound weak in Doom Eternal, a good example is the combat shotgun. In 2016 it sounds weak, but in Eternal it sounds punchy and meaty. So some weapons do get better sound effects in Eternal compared to 2016.
As far as the gameplay is concerned, it's still the same as Doom 4 on the surface. You know, the fast-paced, keep running around the area, shooting all the bad guys. But many things have changed, and not for the better. And the two biggest ones are level design and gunplay.
Alright Doom fans, here we go. This is the moment we've been waiting for, so get your pitchforks and torches ready, and let's see how Contrawolf talks about the gameplay in Doom Eternal.
And just to get this out of the way, no, the Marauder had nothing to do with it. This guy was stupid levels of easy once I figured out how to fight him.
Well, it's a good thing you don't bitch about the Marauder, unlike people like Connor Shaw and upper echelon gamers. So, 10 points to you. And if you think the Marauders in the base game is really easy, just wait until you play the Ancient Gods, cause oh boy.
Anyways, first off, remember how in Doom 4 it was all about running around the arena and don't stop shooting or you're dead? Well, that still applies here, except it's a little more vertical. As in, now it's all about running and jumping around the arena. In fact, in many of the fights, you kind of have to jump around, because many times there's going to be toxic sludge, lava, or purple goo on the floor that slows you down or hurts you, or even a pit to fall into where you'll lose a chunk of health or armor. But none of these bother me, they're more of an annoyance than anything else. What does bother me is what happened to the design of the levels as a result of this. The levels are considerably smaller. I'm guessing the reason for this is the developers trying to make the combat more vertical, because if they didn't do that, nobody would give a shit about all the jumping that you can do and would be playing it the same as Doom 4, so that would have been a huge waste of time on their part, but holy shit did they go overboard.
Yes, it must be the level designer's fault for overdoing the verticality, and not me for not using the verticality. I'm Contrawolf.
Much of the time I feel like I'm walking through a hallway. Go pull up the map in any level of Doom 4 and compare it with any level in Doom 5. In Doom 4, there were plenty of hallways, don't get me wrong on that, but every time you walked into a big area, there were so many places to explore and so many directions you could go in. It felt like a place that you could actually explore, and that's not here with Doom 5. Even the biggest areas feel very small.
Just because the maps are smaller in Eternal than in Doom 2016 doesn't mean it's bad level design.
The secrets, too. In Doom 4, there's all these intricate little hallways and steps you had to take to find the secrets. With Doom 5, most of the time it's like, oh, break this wall and there it is.
I mean, there are secrets that are just flat out tricky to get, like the Pain Elemental collectible. Just Jesus Christ, that's gonna take a lot of skill to get that.
The jumping segments don't do anything to help either, and I like them. I think it's a nice break from the combat, but they don't do anything to make the levels more interesting to explore, because it still feels like you're going in a straight line. I said in my Doom 4 review that the level design was arguably the best thing about that game because Doom 4 brought back the intricately designed and fun to explore levels after years of first-person shooters with straight-line levels that oftentimes did everything in their power to maniacally control your every move. And with Doom 5, it feels like Doom took a huge step back towards those straight-line levels. Sure, it doesn't have all of the scripted events and control freak moments like Call of Duty, but still, it's not good overall. It's a huge downgrade from Doom 4's fantastic levels.
Just because COD did linear levels doesn't mean it's bad overall. There are good games that has good linear level design, so have you played those games or have you ignored them?
And sadly, the gunplay isn't any better. All the guns have been tweaked and changed, every bad guy now has a recommended way to kill them, which is pretty much the only way to kill them, unless you want to waste a whole bunch of ammo.
There's a thing in Doom Eternal called weapon combos. You can combine various weapons with their attachments to kill enemies, like for example the Mancubus. You can either kill them with the Super Shotgun Ballista, or you can kill them with the Super Shotgun and the Rocket Launcher's Lock-On Burst. The possibilities are endless. You gotta have to be creative with them.
On the bigger enemies at least. And speaking of which, the ammo count has been drastically reduced for every gun, and lots of other things are different, but this isn't the problem. And I thought it was, because at first I was having trouble adjusting to all the changes, but once I got adjusted to them, it was fine.
At least you didn't complain about having low ammo, so another 10 points to you.
Until I found a way to cheese my way through the game. Here's what you do. When you start getting the suit upgrade points, put all of them into the grenade launcher and later on the ice bomb. Also, be sure to get the faster dasher upgrade, which refills the dash much quicker. And I also recommend the thicker skin upgrade, which makes you immune to explosive barrels. When you start getting Sentinel crystals, get all the ammo upgrades, and then start unlocking the crystal powers. Go for the loot magnet, then the 3 perks that improve the flame belch. As far as runes are concerned, I recommend Equipment Fiend, Dazed and Confused, and Punch and Reeve. Now in the 3rd level, Cultist Base, once you get the Super Shotgun, unlock both upgrades right away, and go right for completing the Weapon Master Challenge. It's really easy. You just have to kill 50 demons while you're using the meat hook, and once you do that, you unlock the Flaming Meat Hook.
Okay, but there are runes that are far more useful than those 3, like the Air Control or Bloodfield, where if you glory kill a demon, you'll be able to run faster for a short amount of time. Those runes are useful, but whatever.
And the reason for doing all of this is very simple. In Doom 5, while there are health, armor, and ammo pickups lying around, your main way of refilling your health, armor, and ammo is through glory kills, setting enemies on fire, and taking a chainsaw to them respectively, and sometimes taking a chainsaw to an enemy will drop some health and armor if you're low enough. And once you have the Super Shotgun fully upgraded, you can use the Flaming Meat Hook to restore your armor. Simply hit them with the meat hook, and once you get up close to them, pull the trigger and the armor power-ups come bursting out of them like a piñata. 30 points of armor instantly restored. Now combine that with everything else I told you to get, and what you end up with is a game that's really boring.
What?
So maybe don't do that if you want your experience with the game to be, well, fun.
Nearly all of the fights boil down to fire a couple grenades, use the flame belch to drop some armor, and on the bigger enemies, use the flaming meat hook a few times. Maybe take out the rocket launcher or the chain gun, and use the ice bomb once in a while. It became a routine exercise in repetition, and it got really boring. And a big part of this is because it's so much easier to refill the essentials. And one key ingredient in this is that the chainsaw can hold 3 tanks of fuel, and when you're all out, the first tank will refill itself in about a minute. Basically, letting you use the chainsaw an infinite number of times.
And the reason why the chainsaw can now replenish one bar is that way the flow of combat is better. So no longer do you have to scavenge around for minutes for looking for ammo, you can just simply find a fighter demon, chainsaw it, and continue with the flow. It's that simple.
So all I really had to do was run around firing grenades, using the flaming shotgun on the bigger enemies until they dropped, and then chainsawing a weak enemy to refill my shotgun shells. And if I ran out of fuel and didn't have enough time to wait for it to refill, I used a different gun because by then the fight was pretty much over. And what adds to this is that if you fall off a cliff, it doesn't kill you. It just takes out a small chunk of health or armor and puts you safely back on whatever ledge you were standing on. And as I said earlier, it's ridiculously easy to refill that armor. And even if falling off a cliff does kill you, there's extra lives you can find throughout the game and there's plenty of ways to farm them.
Because Doom Eternal is a shooter, not a platformer. And the extra lives are there so that way you don't have to restart from a checkpoint and simply have to get to the same arena you died in. I see that as an improvement.
Now in Doom 4 you could also use the super shotgun to kill most enemies in a few hits, and you did have a lot more ammo, but the thing that made Doom 4 so challenging is that it was much easier to die because you couldn't use all of these easy methods to refill your essentials like you can in this game. You also lost health and armor much quicker, so a few hits from the right attack, even with both of them maxed out, and you were in some serious trouble. You had to keep moving, and even then I still died sometimes, mainly because I got careless, or didn't see an attack from the side or behind or whatever. And also, if you fell into a pit or a pool of lava, back to the last checkpoint. None of this is in Doom 5. Even when there were enemies all over the place and I was down to only a trickle of health, I rarely died because I could always kill a weak enemy and he would drop a bunch of health, and if he didn't, I had plenty of extra lives. The screen goes blank for about 1 second, then you're right back to where you were with plenty of health and armor. Unless you set the difficulty to the mode where if you lose all of your extra lives and then die, it's back to the start of the game, dying has almost no consequence. Now add up everything else I talked about.
And the reason for this, I believe, is because you probably played it on Hurt Me Plenty, or even worse, baby mode.
Truth be told, by the time I had played Doom 5 to the point where I could form a solid opinion on the gameplay, I had lost interest in playing. Of course, I pushed myself to play through the entire game, and those 2 final boss battles were some of the most infuriating fucking boss battles I've ever played.
Now, as in for the Icon of Sin, yeah, he's a bitch, but for the Con Maker, you could simply destroy her with the micro missiles, and if you're low on micro missiles, just headshot a Maker drone, rinse and repeat. She's that fucking easy once you realize the micro missiles does a ton of damage to the Con Maker, so that's some advice for you.
This whole game is one big letdown, and to make it worse, there were things I liked. The floating castle with Doom Guy's room and all of those little toys and music you could collect in the game, and they appear in his castle, I thought that was cool. Why couldn't the rest of the game be as cool as that? And another small thing I really love, you can unlock and wear the Doom 4 armor, and the Doom Guy will look like that even during the cutscenes after you put it on, even the opening cutscene, and thank fuck for this because I think the Doom 5 armor looks fucking retarded.
Okay, I respect that, but you are wrong on that. That does not make him a retard, it makes him more of a fucking badass.
And the game started out really strong, with a bunch of unanswered questions, but as the game went by and the story got more convoluted and it didn't answer any of those questions I had, it's like when Han Solo goes to jump the Falcon into hyperdrive and nothing happens.
And that's why you should not play Doom for the story and instead for the gameplay. No one really cares about the story except for those lore enthusiasts. But either way, we don't care about the story, you shouldn't care about it, and we should just play the game without questions.
And as I said earlier, by the time I could form an opinion on the gameplay, I didn't care anymore. The disappointing gameplay was just the icing on the cake of disappointment that is Doom 5.
Okay, then why did you make a review of it if you don't care for it?
That being said, to my longtime followers, Doom 5 is not the new Resistance 2, even though it has the potential to be.
And it does, you just cheese through the game, and the only people that cheese through games are pussies.
Maybe it's because at this point in my life I've been disappointed so many times that it just doesn't affect me anymore. As soon as I was convinced that Doom 5 was a disappointment, I was like, whatever, another one for the pile. And now the big question, should you play Doom 5? If you can get it real cheap, like under $20 or $20 with all the extra story DLC, then I guess so. But not really, because I don't recommend playing it. There's plenty of better games out there. Doom 4 is definitely worth playing, but if you play that and go into 5 expecting a good sequel, you're not gonna get one.
Even though it is and improves the gameplay, but you don't see it because you cheesed it like a little bitch you are.
And with that, I have nothing left to say on this game. See ya.
And with that, we finally reached the end of the video. So, is it shit? Yes. So, this review in a nutshell is just like Connor Shaw's. It doesn't play like 2016, therefore, I hate Doom Eternal, because that's what I'm getting from this video. Now, Contrawolf's review on Doom Eternal is not as bad as Upper Echelon Gamers or 21 Kilotons, but it's still bad nonetheless. And it's kind of funny that he went mad all because the Doom Eternal doesn't answer the questions Doom 2016's ending left, when nobody gives a fuck about the story apart from lore enthusiasts. And if you ever wanted to see an example of someone not doing something a little different with their playstyle or handicapped themselves to make it harder, Contrawolf's got you covered, because his gameplay is literally just that. Now, to anyone who is expecting that this video is actually going to have a bit of a negative reception, well, you're surprisingly wrong, because his video somehow managed to get a positive reception of it. That's fucking insane! So, overall, Contrawolf's review on Doom Eternal is shit, just like the rest before it. And no matter how many bad reviews this series will get, Doom will remain eternal.